Not quite as hard. Well, Conan O'Brien, want to talk about a lot of things today, but let's talk most recently about hosting the MTV Movie Awards.
Yes.
How was that experience different than when you hosted other big events?
The biggest difference is that the audience was comprised of people who were born 8 months ago. I would say that's the biggest difference. You know, when I've hosted the Emmys and other shows, I would say there have been some people who were living during the Reagan administration. But when you host the MTV Movie Awards, it's a completely different audience. It's extremely young. So I would say that was the biggest change, is trying to key into some of the things that would make me laugh that would also make them laugh. And so that was where most of the work, went into.
I noticed, and I noticed on all the MTV Awards, it's like whatever's going on stage is secondary to the conversations going on in the audience.
Yes, it's the only award show that's hosted by Adderall. All the kids, and so actually I had the entire audience hosed down with Adderall half an hour before the show, so that they were incredibly focused. They watched the show and then they all took the SATs, and I thought that really added to the quality of the show.
Well, the opening was incredible. It went viral, obviously, all the celebrity cameos that you had. How did you come up with that idea?
It was kind of the idea, first of all, that we have this culture, obviously, that's endlessly fascinated with celebrities, so I wanted to deconstruct it and just say, okay, let's boil this thing right down to its essence. And that's why I wanted, at the beginning, the MTV executives to be portrayed as men in their 80s and 90s, and me to say, listen, we're just going to get only celebrity cameos. And it was important to me that one of them say, but will it be funny or make sense? And for me to say, it doesn't matter. People will see the celebrities and go woo. And I think then, actually, we did put a lot of effort into making the different appearances funny, and we got a lot of amazing people, and I think it had a great spirit. But I sort of wanted to deconstruct it.
Totally different audience there than when you've done the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
Yes, exactly. That's extremely different. I mean, to me, the essence of hosting shows, and this is not a glamorous thing to say, but the essence is to do your homework. So I'm a big believer in preparing, and my favorite comedians are always people who I think are naturally funny but then work hard preparing. Steve Martin is legendary for working extremely hard in preparing, and what I wanted to do each time I do an award show is I try and figure out who is this for, and then I learn as much as I can about that event. So the 2 times I've done the White House Correspondents' Dinner, I've literally spent months and months working on coming up with really smart jokes for that room, and jokes that work for that crowd, because that is an incredibly small needle to thread, the White House Correspondents' Dinner. You want to be hip to the room and sort of be inside the beltway, but not too hip and too inside, because they resent that. So you have to it's a balancing act.
And you've got the president right there next to you.
No, he's at all the events I host. Yeah, the president, I don't know if you saw, you probably didn't see, but he was sitting next to me during the MTV Movie Awards. And both times I've hosted the Emmys. I always have a sitting president with me when I perform. That's just in my contract. It's like having M&Ms in the green room.
Yeah, he's a big Hunger Games fan.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He loved it, and he went crazy. At one point, Obama jumped into the mosh pit, and he went crazy. He went crazy when Jonah Hill came out. It was just nuts.
The Emmys, you mentioned that you've hosted that twice. 2 of the best hosting performances I've seen on the Emmys.
Oh, thank you.
Just tell us about, I guess, getting that the first time you got the job for that, and what went in preparation for that.
I prepared incredibly hard. The first time, I remember it was my the first time that I had stepped outside in a major way. I'd done the White House Correspondents' Dinner in the Clinton administration, but I hadn't stepped outside my show and done something in the hosting community on that scale. So I worked very hard. We came up with a lot of stuff. And then I just kept going back and winnowing it down and winnowing it down, and I made sure that by the time I got out there, I knew what I was doing. I was so ready, and I was so excited to get out there. And I got Jennifer Aniston and Brad Pitt, who were together at the time. I think doing my bit separated them. But I got them to participate. I got a lot of people to participate, and Gary Shandling, and we were able to. Everything kind of fell together very nicely. And again, it's not sexy, but it was hard work and a lot of prep.
The next event you host, if you could get Jennifer and Brad to do something again, that would probably gain a little attention.
Yeah, I'm gonna make sure that I do that. They've called several times and suggested it, and I turned it down. But now that you bring it up, I think I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna get them to do it.
Well, we're an awards website. That's why I'm so focused on this, at least to start with. So if you're wondering,
Sure.
Let's talk about your 3 wins. Your first win was for Saturday Night Live, part of the big writing ensemble there.
Yeah, exactly. That was a great year. Saturday Night Live was really what put my career into high drive. I had been working in television for a few years before Saturday Night Live, and then once I got that job, that really put me in the big time. That throws you into the deep end of the pool instantly. And Lorne Michaels' technique is to throw writers in. Your first day, I think one of my first days at Saturday Night Live, they told me to go into a room and pitch some ideas to Steve Martin, and that'll put hair on your chest if you're a 23 or 24-year-old comedy writer. So that was a huge event in my life. And then we had a great year where it all came together, that 88, 89 season, and then we won the Emmy, and it was the first time I had won an Emmy, so I remember thinking, this will now change my life. And I love the Emmys, but you have to wear that thing around your neck, to get some attention from the ladies. It's not like they know automatically you've got an Emmy. So I wore it for a while.
I just went back and rewatched that acceptance, and it's all of you obviously up there, and you definitely stand out because of your height, but also just how young you were.
Yes, I was. I think at the time I was 14, and technically I was a girl. I had a very high estrogen level, so I've changed quite a bit since then. I'm shocked. We just found a piece of tape that we showed on the air the other night of me from 1986, where I did an industrial video, and good God, I'm the youngest, most inexperienced person you've ever seen anywhere. I mean, videotape of children being born seems less shocking than the tape of me working in 1986. So I was always young for my age. I always looked much younger than I really am, and I always looked like a goofy kid, and it's following me into late age.
That's a good trait to have, always looking younger than you are.
At some point it gets sad. I think when I'm 85 and people are asking me to come outside and play hacky sack, it's going to be a little depressing.
Or carding you at the bar.
Exactly.
The other thing I remember about your time on SNL was the Tom Hanks 5 Timers Club.
Yeah.
I remember actually watching that live, and I thought maybe you were a new featured player. They are constantly introducing new featured players,
Yeah.
and I didn't know who you were.
It was funny. They were constantly. That was a period of my career where Lorne, really, to his credit, he thought, this kid has something, but I don't know quite what it is. And I remembered at one point they took a photograph of me to potentially be a featured or, maybe side player in case they ever used me. They took a photograph. But even I knew that was not the right venue for me. I never, the whole time I was writing there, I never looked at Dana Carvey or John Lovitz or Kevin Nealon or Mike Myers or Adam Sandler. I never looked at them and thought I should be doing that. I always knew I had something to contribute on camera, but I knew that it wasn't me playing a bunch of characters. I knew that it was a different skill set. And, I think eventually Lorne, a few years later, after I had left, figured out, wait a minute, I think I know what this kid could do. So he eventually was on the right track with it. But at the time, they would stick me in bits here and there. And what I remembered about the 5 Timers Club, I don't know if you can still notice it. but Tom Hanks walked in, and when you can imagine if you're 24, 25 years old, and you're in a sketch with all these legendary people, and Tom Hanks walks in. My job was just to take a smoking jacket, off a hook, and put it on Tom Hanks. That's all I had to do. And I think he says, "Hello, Sean," and I say, "Hello, Mr. Hanks," and that's it. I had trouble getting it off the hook, and then I had trouble getting his arms in it. And there was a moment where my soul left my body, because you're on live television, and I thought, I'm going to fail to get this jacket onto Tom Hanks, and my career is going to be over.
In front of all these legendary hosts.
Exactly.
Yeah, I fully expected last year when Justin Timberlake revisited that Sean would still be working in that club.
I know. They should have had me back. I don't know. I think that was an oversight. I was looking into a lawsuit, and then I remembered I don't have lawyers, so I dropped it.
Were you one of the writers on that sketch?
No, I was not. I think it was Jim. I'm going to say it was a Jim Downey sketch. I think it was a Jim Downey sketch, and I remember there being a group of people, and of course, when Steve Martin's in a sketch, he contributes as well, and I think Al Franken may have been involved. It was one of the heavy hitters were working on that one.
Will you be going back for the 40th anniversary SNL special next February?
Yeah, I'd like to if I can, if schedule permits. It would be fun to go back and see everybody. It's been a long time since, obviously, during the entire late night show. If you add the late night time plus the time I was on Saturday Night Live, I think I did close to 20 years in Rockefeller Center, and so. I know a lot of faces. There's a lot of great memories, and it would be nice to go back.
With you working in that building, especially, and Lorne Michaels producing late night, I always wondered why you only hosted SNL once.
I did it one time and really loved it, and then realized I had the experience. I remembered very strongly feeling it was always a dream to host that show. And I did it, and I felt like I scratched the itch, and I was happy with how it went, so I almost didn't want to touch it again. I felt like I experienced that, and also my schedule was always that to host the show is giving up one of your precious weeks off, and so I did it that one time. It was great, and then I remembered thinking, next time I get a week off, I just want to drink like 5 Slurpees. And watch Saved by the Bell reruns in my boxer shorts. Have I said too much?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Your next Emmy win was for your own writing staff for Late Night in '07. You'd been nominated a bunch of times for that show, but had never won. Was that a big surprise that night?
It kind of was. I mean, we had a number of years where people told us, "Oh my God, you're definitely winning this year." We had years where that was sort of in the zeitgeist, where people told us that was our year and we were going to win. And then once you go through a few of those and it doesn't work out, it's always when you're not thinking about it. So that was actually an Emmys where a bunch of our writers didn't bother to come because they didn't think we were going to win. So I went up there with a very small writing staff. I think only a couple of us went up on stage, which I think looked really impressive. Because people thought, wow, Conan cranks out 5 of these a week, and he's got 3 writers and someone's grandmother. That's pretty amazing. So yeah, it was a nice surprise. I was very happy because I really felt that our writers had deserved one for a long time. I think they're incredible. So in a way, I felt like we were accepting it on behalf of all the late night writers going back to '93. I really felt like that was it was nice to have that acknowledged, and that's really all we needed. That was good.
And now for your new TBS show, you win an interactive Emmy. I don't know what interactive Emmy means, but the category was interactive.
Yes. I don't know what it means either. All I know is it's still the same Emmy. I thought it would be a different Emmy, like a virtual Emmy. I really did expect it to be a hologram of an Emmy. But then you get in the mail a real Emmy. And I was stunned. I had it tested. Is it the same metal? Does it weigh the same? All the specifications match. It's the same Emmy. So yes, now we have 3. And I think my motto is 3 and out. That's what I say. Because
Well,
I look at our
you'll have some more chances here.
Well, I look at our category now. I mean, our category keeps expanding every year, and now it's unbelievable. I mean, I think there's 700 different types of show in the variety and music category, and we're up against. I looked it up. We're up against there are shows like Key and Peele, which is an incredible show. Portlandia, amazing. We're always up against Barbra Streisand. Anytime she leaves the house, she's in that category. So we're up against her. I'm up against the History Channel's World War II in color. And how do you go up against World War II? You're not just going up against the Germans. You're going up against the Germans, the Russians, the Americans, and the British and the French. How do you win that category?
That's a lot of variety. That's why they're in that category.
Exactly. And so the category, there are food items that are in the category now. Cakes and pies and custards. I noticed that I looked at our category, we're also up against garments, suits, sweatshirts. So, it's such a crazy category, and it's become so big that I don't expect more Emmys. If we get one, that's fine, that's nice. But I'm rooting for the History Channel World War II in color. I think they've done an amazing job.
Well, speaking of this kind of a topic, you talk about lots of variety shows, lots of turmoil right now in late night, lots of people switching jobs, retiring,
right.
New shows starting. What's your take on all of this?
I've always been told that the best thing to do in a car accident is stay loose, that the person who survives an auto accident is the guy who's drunk because he doesn't tighten up. He just goes with the crash. And that's my motto, man. I've been drinking heavily since all these new shows started. I'm often roll out of bed at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I come to the studio. I'm abusive. And then I do my thing, and it seems to be working. And by that, I mean I'm still employed. I'm happy. I'm doing stuff that I enjoy. So there's always, in a way, when you think about it, there was incredible turmoil when I started out in '93. And then there's been upheavals left and right. And yes, this is a period of great change, but to me, the one thing that never changes, there's the constant, is keep your head down, do your show, try to keep thinking of new ways to keep yourself interested that make you laugh yourself, honestly. Don't try to condescend to the audience. Do that, and you should be okay. That's my motto. And I like the fact that there are a lot of new faces and there are a lot of new people. It just feels like an exciting time.
When you started in '93, and I went back and watched some of those the other day, I've got some of those recorded.
Yeah.
First of all, when was the last time you watched some of those episodes?
I watched the first episode. I watched the first episode again. I forget what the context was, but I watched a chunk of it about 2 years ago, and this is going to sound a little pompous. I saw how raw I was, obviously, and how jittery and how overly excited and sickly I looked. But what impressed me was I really liked the comedy still on the first show. I thought we really swung for the fences, and a lot of the stuff we did on the first episode, and in fact, a lot of the stuff we did the first week was stuff that went on to sort of become, staples of our late night show. So I remembered how hard we worked preparing for that show, that first one. We wanted to make a good first impression, and I was really happy with that first show. And then, we got into the 1.5-year process of me having to learn on the job in front of America, which was, quite a challenge, as you can imagine, and in some ways the toughest thing I'll ever want to do in my life, but also exhilarating. And I think we were forced through necessity to come up with a lot of weird ideas that if I had had more time and more experience, I never would have put them on the air. And I think that really made the show fairly innovative and strange.
Some of that is in the Bill Carter book from a couple of years ago. Did you like that book, and did you feel like it was pretty...
Which one? He wrote 2. I can't remember. Oh, and he also wrote a romance novel. It's about a girl coming of age and falling in love with a boy at summer camp. I thought it was a weird thing for Bill to do. But that's his bag, He wanted to write romance. I think the thing about Bill is he's an accurate reporter, and so I think he got a lot of the, I can't remember a lot of it because it's been so long ago, but when that first book came out, I thought, yeah, he got the generalities of it correct. Wherever I was concerned, it looked like it was correct. And, it's like someone taking a snapshot of you during adolescence. You're not going to like everything you see, but it's honest, it's true. It's me during an incredible stage of growth, 93, 94, 95. So, yeah, I think he's, for the most part, pretty fair.
And the more recent book, was it accurate?
I did not. I'm going to be honest with you. I did not check that book out. People around me read it. It gets to be, and this is the kind of thing where when a celebrity says, "Oh, I didn't read that thing about me," everybody says they're lying. They had to have because it's about you. I honestly didn't. I knew what had happened. I knew exactly what happened. Everybody who I work with read it. They gave me the lowdown on how more or less it was correct, and there were some things that, we might have taken issue with, but for the most part, in a busy world with a lot of big stuff going on, I think Bill captured the essence of what happened.
Just too difficult for you to go back through it yourself?
Yeah, I have no, I didn't really have much interest in revisiting it. I don't know that I will. I have, like I say, so much of my life since that last Tonight Show has been about, all right, let's take stock of what I have and where I am and do the best I can to create new stuff and really try to the best of my ability, be funny in an honest, brand new way. And so going back has not felt like it would be. I'm immensely proud. I'm enormously proud of the body of work that I have from all those years. I'm enormously proud of a lot of the stuff we did on Late Night and the Tonight Show. But now it's been about, I'd like to make something new. I don't want to waste this time looking backwards. So to me, it felt like that wouldn't, I'll read. There are other books I should read first.
Well, a couple of Conan questions for TBS Conan questions.
Yep.
You worked with Andy Richter a long time, then he wasn't with you a long time.
Yeah.
Now he's back again. What does he bring to the show?
First of all, I didn't ask him back. He wandered back. Like a bear that found a pie in your cabin and then comes back later on for the same pie. Andy is an invaluable asset. We had all those years together. I think there are a lot of fans out there now that aren't aware that Andy actually left for 7 years. He was a hobo who rode the rails and traveled across America. But he came back, and instantly, he's the funniest guy I know. He and I are different. But we work well together. We're different personalities. I run hot. He runs cooler. I worry. He doesn't worry. He's like a sniper. When he makes a comment, he's very strategically funny. And he's got that sort of laser-like ability to say one or two or three words and exactly, and get that huge laugh. And he sits in wait to do it. And it works perfectly. We've got this peanut butter and jelly symbiosis that has always worked. And I have enormous respect for him as a comic mind. He's there at rehearsal. I'm always looking to Andy to say, what do you think? He has great ideas on how a bit can be changed. If something feels stale, Andy will tell you. Andy's the toughest guy to make laugh. He doesn't fake laugh at me. Sometimes in the monologue when I'm struggling, he laughs at me. And I think that's a very unusual dynamic. I think the greatest thing about Andy's role on the show is that he's not, and he never has been and is not now, subservient to me in any way. I don't tell him what to say. I don't tell him what to do. He can disagree with me, and we're very much in that way co-equals, even though I have complete power over his life.
This will be the portion of the interview he watches.
Yeah, exactly. He's going to speed through, and people are going to say, hey, Conan says some nice things about you, but the most important thing to me, is our show is what you see is what you get. It's not artifice. I'm not the slickest performer, and but I'm, I think, fairly honest. I'm stay in it, and I'm true to myself and to what I think is funny. Andy Richter really amuses me. I think he's really funny, and he makes the show, he makes that job more fun for me. And so I think people can see that on camera. That's the beautiful thing about television, is that it's a medium where when something honest and real happens, it comes through the TV screen. I don't know why, but when I'm in the monologue and the material isn't quite working, but then I start riffing off of that and something real happens, the audience explodes. When something real happens in the interviews, the audience recognizes it. They recognize it in the studio audience, and they recognize it at home. And when something happens between Andy and I, which happens all the time, and he makes me laugh, it's real, it's honest, and you can't fake that. And I think that's the part about Andy Richter that is the biggest blessing, is he makes the show. I always want to go out there, and I know if the crowd, for some reason, isn't as hot, and if the material isn't as good that night, I'll have a good time with Andy.
The only thing I miss on the new show is your old theme music. I wish you were able to bring that along with you.
Well, you know, it's owned by NBC, and we couldn't take it along, and I think it's tough because what happens is you really do associate the old music gets in your DNA. It gets in my DNA, you know, and you think of it when you have a theme song for 16 years, and I don't know how many shows, 2,700 shows, 2,700 hours, it becomes your theme, and then when it's time to start again and you have to pick up the pieces and make a new song, it's never going to feel like that old song. So
I didn't know the circumstances. I remember when Dave moved over, they were either they allowed or he just took the old song or whatever.
Yeah, I think I don't exactly remember what happened now because I was heavily medicated during that period. But you know, we probably could have gotten into it and tried to get that song, but it was no one was really talking at that point. So I can get you a cassette of the song.
Oh, a cassette? Okay. Well, how about an 8-track?
I'll get you. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get you an 8-track of that song, and the song "Convoy."
I think I've got that here on 8-track.
Okay. Yeah, I know I have.
In the South, you have to have that on 8-track.
You have to have that.
Speaking of music, though, I hadn't heard you comment on this, but your former band leader Max Weinberg and the E Street Band finally go in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame last month. What were your thoughts?
I was thrilled. I had heard that it was going to happen. I think, like a lot of us, I thought it felt a little overdue, you know. And I think, but I watched that show. I was really happy for Max. You know, that E Street Band is such a legendary band, and it was really nice. It was nice to see Max up there getting his due and getting to play those amazing songs with the whole band and with Bruce. And so to me it was, you know, a fantastic night. I was very happy for him. I was a little bitter that I was not inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But ironically, I am in the Soul Hall of Fame. So, you know, from my
Where's
work.
that located?
You know, it's in our hearts, don't you think?
It was an honorary induction.
Exactly.
Listen, congratulations also on Critics' Choice TV Award, Best Talk Show. That was announced last week. Will you be going to that award show in a week or two?
I hope so. I haven't gotten down. You know, my schedule is always in flux because I double as a male model, and I'm doing Milan in 2 days for a runway show for Prada. They've added pleats, which is the big. That's a spoiler alert, but pleats are back, and I'll be walking that runway. But you know, if I can make it, I'd love to make it. I'm not sure. We haven't figured it out yet, but I was very excited.
Well, maybe that'll turn into another Emmy nomination this summer. We're hoping for you, and really appreciate your time today.
Well, it's nice. Where are you, by the way?
I'm in, speaking of music, I'm in the birthplace of Elvis Presley, Tupelo, Mississippi.
You're kidding. I'm a huge Elvis fanatic, and I have not been I've been to Memphis, but I have not been to Tupelo.
We're about 90 minutes southeast of Memphis.
Is his the Shotgun Shack where he grew up? Is that still there?
It is. A friend of mine runs that, and they have a museum and a gift shop and a chapel and all of that around it.
I gotta get there. I gotta go there.
Oh, we'll set you up. We'll have a good time, and we'll eat lots of.
I know you got to run, but I almost bought. I was at an auction once, and they put up for auction. This is years and years and years ago. Elvis Presley's Humes High School library card, and I could have had it for like $350, but I was busy working in the background, and then I got my attention that it was for sale, and I went to put up my hand, and they took it off the auction because they weren't getting what they wanted.
Oh, I got you.
But I could have had his Humes High School library card, and it's one of my biggest regrets in life.
Well, we've got the school where he went to school here through junior high is still there. That's where I went to junior high.
Oh, really?
And, the hardware store where he bought his first guitar is available to tour. So there's lots of things to do for you.
Yeah. Well, I got to get down there.
And this happens to be Elvis Presley week here in Tupelo. There's a big festival. So
that's so cool. I'd love to get down there.
Well, I knew you were an Elvis fan. I'm glad you brought that up. I do appreciate your time today. I know you got a busy day, and good luck this summer.
Thank you so much. Good talking to you, Chris.
Thanks. You too.